Okay, so if you're feeling a little lost in the multiverse after those new Avengers Doomsday teasers, trust me, you are not alone. So today, we're going to break it all down. The trailers that don't quite add up, the behind-the-scenes drama, and the secret war that's about to erupt between two of Marvel's absolute biggest icons. You really gotta pay attention to this line right here. It's from the trailer, and it's not just some cool throwaway quote, it's basically the entire plot of the movie. Every single piece of chaos, every conflict we're about to see, it all stems directly from the time travel shenanigans in Avengers Endgame. And right at the heart of all this chaos, we've got ourselves a new civil war. We have Chris Evans returning as Captain America, which is amazing, but he's not up against a familiar face. No, this time, he's facing Robert Downey Jr. as the one and only Dr. Doom. Yeah, you heard me right. So to really get this fight, you have to get them. On one side, you have Steve Rogers, who finally got his happily ever after with Peggy Carter. But on the other side, you have Dr. Doom, whose entire family was literally erased from existence because of a multiversal incursion. That's when two universes crash into each other, and one gets destroyed. And guess who he blames? He points the finger squarely at Captain America's choice. So this isn't just about heroes fighting heroes. It's personal. It's tragic. You've probably seen that first trailer, right? The super emotional one with Captain America and his son? Well, get this. It has a secret history. It was never even meant to be a trailer in the first place. It was actually a deleted post-credit scene from the Fantastic Four movie. And this timeline here gives us a fascinating peek behind the curtain. Originally, the plan was simple. Fantastic Four would come out, and then bam, Avengers Doomsday would drop right after. But then there was a delay. And that delay actually allowed Marvel to slide the new Spider-Man movie in between the two, giving them more breathing room to build the story. So what they do with that post-credit scene? They brilliantly repurposed it into the powerful teaser we all saw. And man, if they had kept that original scene, it would have changed everything. It was going to reveal that Captain America's new life with Peggy wasn't just in a different timeline of our universe, but in a completely different universe altogether. The Fantastic Four's home, Earth 828. So, you might be asking, why on earth would they scrap such a massive reveal? Well, honestly, because it was a mess. It created this huge continuity headache that totally conflicted with the time travel rules they'd already set up in Endgame and Loki. So Marvel decided to go with a much cleaner, simpler solution. Now, to really get their new plan, we've got to do a quick refresher on a key concept, the branch timeline. This is the absolute cornerstone of how time travel works in the MCU. Basically, when you go to the past and change something, you don't mess with your own future. Instead, you create a brand new reality that just branches off from the main one. Remember when Hulk explained this in Endgame? You just can't change your own past. Trying to do that doesn't actually alter your timeline. What it does do is create a brand new, separate one. And that is exactly what happened when Steve Rogers stayed with Peggy. He didn't rewrite our history, he just started a new one. And this whole simplification move, it serves a much bigger purpose. Marvel wants Avengers Doomsday to feel like a direct sequel to Endgame. They want casual fans, the ones who haven't memorized every single detail, to be able to jump right in and get what's going on. It's a really smart play to try and recapture that massive, everyone is watching magic. Okay, so now that we're all on the same page with the time travel rules, let's circle back to Dr. Doom. Because with this new, clearer understanding, you can really start to see the tragic and maybe, just maybe, even sympathetic reasons behind what he's doing. So let's break down what we think Doom's mission is. 1, he's laser-focused on Captain America, blaming him for his family's death. 2, he's hunting down anyone he thinks is responsible for creating these timeline-destroying incursions. 3, some fans are convinced he's secretly observing things in the background of every single trailer. And 4, this is the really chilling part. His ultimate goal might be to target the children of our heroes. But here is where things get really interesting. Just like in Civil War, this is not some black and white good versus evil fight. We're not supposed to see Dr. Doom as a pure, mustache-twirling villain. The guy has a legitimate point. He lost his entire family. And from his perspective, Captain America's actions are to blame. It forces us, the audience, to ask, does he have a right to be this angry? That moral gray area is what's going to make this conflict so incredible. So what does this all mean for the future of the MCU? I mean, with these new rules and motivations, a whole universe of possibilities has just opened up.
let's take a look at what we know and what we can probably expect as we get closer and closer to this movie's release.
All right, let's rapid fire through some of the biggest fan questions out there. Number 1, how did Old Man Cap pop up at the end of Endgame to give Sam the shield? The answer is, in his timeline, that happens after the events of Doomsday and Secret Wars. Wild, right? Next, what happened to that rumored solo Captain America movie? Well, its story basically got absorbed into Avengers Doomsday. And finally, the one everybody's asking, when is the next big trailer coming? All signs are pointing to it being attached to Spider-Man Brand New Day this summer.
We'll start with Dr. Doom's grand chessboard. Then we'll get into the impossible choice he's going to use against them. From there, we'll talk about a big behind-the-scenes shakeup for Secret Wars, and we'll wrap up with a deleted scene that almost brought back a legend.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about the guy apparently at the center of all this. Leaks are pointing to Dr. Doom, but not the Dr. Doom you might be expecting. This isn't going to be some typical conqueror. No, he's being set up as the ultimate manipulator, and he's playing a way different and honestly, a much more dangerous game than Thanos ever did. Yeah, this quote apparently comes from a description of some leaked concept art, and it just perfectly nails his whole strategy. See, Doom isn't looking for a brawl. He's not trying to punch his way to victory. He's playing chess. And the Avengers, they're the pieces on his board. He's just moving them around, setting them up for his own checkmate. And this really gets to the core of the difference, doesn't it? I mean, Thanos, he was a physical threat, a cosmic force who basically told the whole universe, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. Doom's approach is so much more insidious. He's a psychological threat. His goal is to get inside their heads, to corrupt their ideals, and to literally weaponize their own ethics against them. So his reported plan is just diabolically clever. He's not gonna charge in, guns blazing. Nope. The plan is to pretend he's an ally, to find that one deep, ethical crack between the heroes, and then just give it a little push. The whole point is to make them doubt each other, to turn them against one another so completely that they basically destroy themselves. And when the dust settles, he's the one left to pick up the pieces. So you might be wondering, what's the weapon he's going to use to create this massive split? It's not an infinity gauntlet, it's not some crazy new piece of tech. It's an absolutely catastrophic multiversal event called an incursion. And the whole idea behind it is terrifyingly simple. You have two Earths from two separate universes that start to collide, trying to occupy the exact same space. The rule is, if you don't destroy one of them, both of them get completely annihilated. That's it. There's no third option. It's this brutal, absolute law of the multiverse that forces a truly unimaginable choice. And that right there, that's the ethical time bomb at the heart of this whole story. Do you commit multiversal genocide to save every single person and everything you've ever known? I mean, what's the right answer? There is no right answer, and that's precisely what makes it the perfect weapon for a manipulator like Dr. Doom. And the leak suggests that by the time we really get into the thick of this, the multiverse is already dying. We're not talking about infinite universes anymore. We might be down to like a handful of them left. So this isn't some philosophical debate for them. It's a real, immediate crisis where the survival of trillions of lives literally hangs on this one impossible decision. Well, you can see how this dilemma is the perfect catalyst for a massive conflict, right? This isn't good versus evil anymore. Not even close. It's about two different, and you could argue valid, ideas of what it means to be a hero when you're staring down an impossible choice. And that leads to an inevitable and really tragic civil war. And who's leading one side of this ideological battle? Of course, it's Steve Rogers. His whole philosophy, which we've seen time and time again, is absolute. We don't trade lives. You find another way. You save everyone, or you all fail together. It's incredibly noble, but when you're facing an incursion, is it maybe a little naive? Because on the other side of that argument, you reportedly have the X-Men. And the leaks say they are not new to this kind of horror. They've already dealt with incursions. They've already been forced to make that hard choice. They have destroyed other worlds just to survive, and they will absolutely do it again. Because for them, protecting their own universe isn't just a priority, it's the only logical priority. So there it is. That's the core conflict right there. Idealism versus pragmatism. Cap's side believes you never ever cross that line, no matter what. The X-Men side believes that when you're facing total extinction, you do whatever it takes to survive. And the craziest part? You can argue neither side is really wrong. And that's what's going to make this fight so incredibly tragic. All right, let's switch gears a bit and talk about some major behind-the-scenes news, because the real world is definitely shaping how this story gets told. For a long time, we all heard the plan was to split the grand finale, Secret Wars, into 2 giant movies. Well, it looks like that's not happening anymore.
That's right. All the insider reports are saying Marvel has pumped the brakes on a 2-part finale. Instead, Avengers Secret Wars is now being planned as one single, absolutely massive movie to wrap up the entire multiverse saga.
So why the big change? Well, it apparently boils down to 2 really practical, real-world problems. First up, scheduling. Just try to imagine coordinating the schedules of dozens and dozens of A-list actors for 2 huge event films back-to-back. It would be a logistical nightmare. And the second reason? You guessed it, money.
That's the number being thrown around for Robert Downey Jr.'s payday for just his appearances. Now think about that. And then multiply that kind of cost across dozens of other massive stars for 2 movies. The budget would be absolutely astronomical. So yeah, it seems like even for Marvel, some things are just a little too expensive. Okay, finally, let's get into a really fascinating what-if story. There was apparently a plan in place for a really quiet but totally shocking return that ended up getting cut from the new Fantastic Four movie. So this whole thing kicked off with some set photos. We saw this actor, but their identity was a total secret, which of course led to just endless speculation online. I think all we could really see were his boots, but believe me, that was more than enough to get everybody talking. Then, a little later, insiders confirmed that this mystery person was, in fact, there to shoot a post-credit scene. But for whatever reason, maybe it was about marketing, maybe the story changed, the entire scene got scrapped. Just gone. And here's the kicker. This wasn't just some random scene. This was supposed to be the official, on-screen return of Chris Evans as Steve Rogers. Yeah. The plan was literally to bring Captain America back into the fold right there in the Fantastic Four movie. And the scene itself sounds so simple and kind of beautiful. The Fantastic Four go to a baseball game. They sit down in the stands, and just a few seats over, there's an older Steve Rogers sitting with Peggy and their son. That's it. No big action sequence, no long explanation. Just a quiet, sentimental reintroduction to set the stage for the crucial role he's supposed to play in the big war to come. So that really brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? When the fight isn't against some alien invader, but against your friends. When the threat is a philosophical crisis. And when you have a genius in the shadows turning your own sense of right and wrong into a weapon against you. Can anyone actually win? Or are the heroes just going to tear each other to pieces, exactly like Dr. Doom planned all along?